Okay, so we're going to do a quick video on setting up MainStage and Ableton to run side by side without rewiring them together. And basically what we'll do is that allows you to continue running tracks, your click track and things like that out of Ableton, and keep all of your keyboard patches in MainStage. And there's one little trick that we'll do to be able to have Ableton send data back over to MainStage to recall your patches, which saves you having to kind of punch extra buttons to recall a patch. So every time you start a song in Ableton, it's going to automatically recall the correct patch in Ableton, or I'm sorry, in MainStage. So we're going to start in MainStage. A couple little things we need to do over here first. We're going to come to Preferences. And the very first thing you want to do is on the audio tab is make sure that Enable Rewire Host Support is unchecked. By default, sometimes that's checked. So go ahead and uncheck it. When you do, MainStage is going to want to restart. That's fine. It needs to relaunch with Rewire turned off. And of course, here's also where you're going to select your audio interface and all that stuff. But that's a different thing. We're going to assume that everyone knows what they're doing on that. So, so we're just going to turn Rewire Host Support off. And then second thing is at the concert level, your main concert folder, you're going to come down here in the MIDI section, and where it says Program Changes. Right now, by default, it's either going to be set to none or all, most likely. I don't like leaving it at all. That's a little bit too open-ended. I don't want to risk accidentally sending program changes from any other source. I want to be a little bit more specific about where that data is coming from, just to avoid potential glitches or issues. So we're going to be specific, and we're going to use the IAC MIDI bus, which, if you're not familiar with it, that's basically your computer's internal MIDI routing program or system. So it allows you to route MIDI data back and forth between applications that don't typically talk to each other. So we're going to use the IAC MIDI bus as the MIDI delivery system that's going to receive the program changes. And then again, because I don't want to be just super open-ended and leave it on all 16 channels, your preference, I like going all the way up to like channel 16 to send this kind of data. I'll leave the lower channels for actual devices like keyboards and things like that. So I'll just go all the way up to channel 16. So we're going to remember this for later. We're using IAC bus and channel 16. Now, if for some reason you don't see this available in the list, or if it's grayed out, that means on your computer it's most likely not enabled. So what you need to look for is this icon, the Audio MIDI Setup. If this is a system program, so it's not a third-party install. This comes with your computer. If you're a Mac user, you already have this. You just need to find it wherever it's at. It might be in your utilities folder. And we're going to open this up, and we're going to be in the MIDI studio. If this window is not showing for you, then you just come over to Window and say Show MIDI Studio. And then you're going to look here where it says IAC MIDI. If we double-click on that, this needs to be checked, Devices Online. If it's not checked, then we can see down here in MainStage it grayed out. It's not available to use. So just make sure that it's online, and then you should be able to select it in MainStage. So the last thing we need to do in MainStage is we need to come to each individual patch, and we need to assign it a program change number. And so if you come over here to Attributes, sorry, I was already there, the Attributes tab on each specific patch, you can see that there's an option to enable the program change data and select a specific number. You can choose any number. The main important thing is each patch needs to have its own unique program change number. If you have duplicates out there, it could send conflicting information, and MainStage is not going to know which patch to recall, and you could have issues. So I like doing it numerically. Patch 1 is program change 1, 2 is program change 2, 3, and so on. Again, you can do it however you want. Just make sure that there's no duplicates. So we're going to come through 1, 2. This is the third song. It's going to be program change 3. Fourth song is going to be 4. Fifth song will be 5. Sixth song will be 6. And then this last one we'll just make 7. Just a generic piano patch. Okay, so that's pretty much all the setup we need to do in MainStage. Now we're going to go ahead and jump over to Ableton. Go ahead and launch that here. And we're basically going to create a MIDI channel that's going to send that program change data back over to MainStage. So I'm going to go ahead and open a session I already kind of have set up for this. Wonderful, colorful wheel of waiting. My computer obviously loves to screen capture and open programs at the same time. Okay, here we are. So what we're going to do, actually, I've already got it set up, but I'm going to delete this and we're going to recreate this so that we can kind of see what all the steps are. Okay, so in Preferences, we're going to go to the MIDI tab, and over here on in the Output section, we want to enable the IAC MIDI bus on the track. That needs to be enabled. That's going to allow any MIDI channel or MIDI track that I create to access the IAC MIDI bus for its output routing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create a new MIDI track. Apologize for the coughing. I'm kind of getting over a little bit of a cold. So we're going to call this MS Patch Recall. Go ahead and give it a color. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and double click to create a MIDI clip, and we're going to call this Joy to the World Patch Recall. You name it, whatever you want to name it. Makes sense to you. And so down here is our clip information. I'm going to turn loop off. It, in theory, doesn't necessarily make a difference, although I don't necessarily like the idea of MIDI data continuously being sent over to MainStage for it to continue to have to process and decide what to do with. Again, it maybe shouldn't make any difference. I'm just a little bit anal where I go send the data once, MainStage will accept it, and then we can move on. We don't need to keep sending the same information over. So loop is off, and then here you can see where it says PGM change, it's program change information. This last window is references the program control or the program change number. So we're gonna select in there. We're gonna type 1. So now this MIDI clip, whenever it's fired, is going to send program change number 1 out. We're gonna select our output, the IAC MIDI bus, and we chose channel 16. And this is another just anal thing on my part. It's probably completely unnecessary. I like selecting or turning the MIDI input off, so I don't want to accidentally receive MIDI data from some other random source and have it send out and potentially risk recalling a patch accidentally. The odds of that happening are pretty slim, but I like to be extra cautious. So, so now as I fire this scene, it's going to start. It's going to start the Joy to the World track, and it's also going to fire this MIDI track or this MIDI clip, and it's going to send it over, and MainStage should hopefully receive that information and recall patch 1. So we're going to go ahead and test this. I'm going to select a different patch over here so that we can actually see it recall patch number 1. Very quick side note before I do that, this is one more optional thing. The quantization for firing this clip right now is set to global. That's the default setting, so it's going to follow whatever your global quantization settings are. I have mine set to 1 bar so that if I queue up, jumping back to a chorus or a verse, then it's going to wait till the end of whatever bar I'm in before it goes back to that. For patch recall, depending on your preferences, I like to know that it's going to happen immediately when I fire that scene. It's not going to wait till the end of a bar. I want a patch to recall. I want it to recall immediately. That's totally up to you, but I'm going to set this to none, so it's going to basically ignore the global settings, and it's going to fire as soon as I fire the scene, regardless of whether these start right away or not. So we're going to go ahead and fire this off, and if we've set everything up correctly, we should see this jump up and recall Joy to the World Patch 1. And there it goes. So now the song's playing. You're not hearing it because I have it routed to my external interface, so that's fine. But we can see that that worked just fine there. And then we're going to go ahead and stop this. So then to continue the process, we would basically copy and paste, and then we would update the program number to number 2, number 3, number 4 for each subsequent patch, so on through the end of the set. So we'll just call that Born as the King. We fire that, and we can see it recall Born as the King. Start, go Joy to the World. It jumps back up Joy to the World. So that's basically kind of the gist of how to do that. Just saves you an extra button push of having to recall a patch and then start a song. You know, every little thing helps. Probably not a huge major benefit, but maybe it is. So anyway, that's it. Hopefully that helped if this is something that you're looking to do.